7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Discussing everything about the afterlife and spirit world. Coming to you all the way from Ireland, it's Sandie Byrne.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Life AfterLife with me, Sandie Byrne. So firstly, I want to say a big thank you to all of you who got in contact with me. A few weeks ago, I asked you for feedback. Should I continue with the podcast? What do you want to hear? Okay, so a lot of you did get in touch, and it's really nice for me to know that you're listening. Okay, and I'm so grateful for the ideas and the suggestions. So if you're listening and you have some suggestions but you haven't yet reached out, you know where I am. Okay, my contact details are in the show notes attached to this episode. So for this episode, I want to share with you a little technique for connecting with spirit. Okay, it's part of what I teach when I hold a development circle, and I hope that it gives some direction to those of you who always ask the question of how you can connect to spirit or why some people can connect but you can't. Okay. Now, of course, the reality of the situation is that everyone can connect to spirit, okay? There's no difference. There's no such thing as a gift that people are born with, okay? We all have the ability to communicate with spirit, just like we all have the ability to speak French, okay? I mean, if you have the ability to speak, then you have the ability to speak French. You just need to learn the words to make the communication easier, so you learn the language, okay? So think of spirit communication in the same way. You have the ability to communicate with your loved ones in spirit. You just need to develop your language with them so that they can communicate easily with you. Okay? So the first major thing that you need to do when trying to build up that language or that understanding is to understand yourself and what's going on with you. Okay, this is the key. And here's the thing that you absolutely need to understand. Okay, and that is that the communication with spirit takes place in the space between what belongs to you and what belongs to them. Okay, so there's a little in-between space in there. Now let me explain that further. I'm sure all of you know what a Venn diagram is. Okay, you know those charts that you see where there's two or more circles that represent different things, and then there's always a part that overlaps. Okay, that's called a Venn diagram. So if you imagine a Venn diagram where one circle is you, this is you and your energy, and another circle that's your loved one in spirit and their energy, then there would be a little overlapping part that's the space where the communication takes place. Okay? It's the space that you have created so that they can make themselves known to you. And it's the space where they hold all of the information that they want to give to you. So in order for this magic to happen, you need to create the space. Okay, now, absolutely there is a bit more to communicate with spirit than this. But what I want to explain in this episode is how you go about creating the space. Okay, now, I've talked about this before. Okay, our lives today are so full. We're so busy with all of modern living, our careers, our family, our finances, our TV programs, let's face it, So from the moment our feet hit the ground every morning, we take off running and we don't stop until we get back into bed again that night, okay? So when life is like this, okay, then there's no space for another energy to communicate with you, okay? There's no room in your energy because it's full of so many things. How can spirit come into that energy if there's no room for them? Okay? And they want to come into your energy and they want to give you an information download that's meaningful to you. I always envisage it. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Paul. Okay, it's about a little alien that comes down to Earth. Okay, and there's two guys from the UK and they're in America for... There's some kind of like a conference thing that's on every year. I don't know what they call it. Con, or I don't know what they call it. Something like that. But anyway, they're at it and then they meet this alien. And he does this download into their minds, like all the meaning of the universe. It's comedy. It's really funny. You should see it. But he puts his finger on their head and he gives them an information download. So if you imagine spirit a bit like that they're giving you an information download, okay, and you want it to be meaningful. Okay, so you need to create the space. Okay. Now, I always say this to people. Okay, it's very, very unusual, not impossible, but it's very unusual for spirit to just whisper in your ear what they want you to know. Okay, it would make things so much easier, and there would be, far less room for misinterpretation if it was like that. But to be fair, spirit do not have a voice box. Okay, they don't have the physical body that they once had when they lived here on earth. So they don't have a voice box. Okay, so it's not really possible for them to whisper in your ear. Okay, now that's a topic for another podcast that I will talk about, because, in short, basically, people can hear spirit, but it's like an echo or a replay of something that they may have said when they were alive. We'll talk about that in the future. For now, let's just stick with creating the space. We won't get too complicated in this one episode. So the first step to creating this space is separating what actually belongs to you and what you're getting from spirit. So if you think of two different sides, okay, this belongs to me and this is what I'm getting from spirit. Now, of course, I'm not talking about physical belongings, okay? What I'm talking about is what's going on in your energy. What in your energy belongs to you. So for example, if you wake up one morning and you've slept badly and you have a crink in your neck, okay, or maybe you have a headache, well, this is going to affect the type of information that you get from spirit, okay? Now, for me as a medium, it definitely does, okay? Because if I feel like this, and then later in the day I'm trying to read someone who maybe had a stroke or had a brain bleed or a head injury or whatever, okay, how do I know that what I'm feeling isn't just as a result of a bad night's sleep or a hangover or whatever? Okay, do you see what I'm saying? So I need to separate my toothache or my headache or my crink in my neck or my hangover, if I don't drink, but you know what I mean. Okay. So another example, if you've followed me for a while, you know that I suffer a lot with my back. Okay. I have an issue with my back as a result of a traffic accident some years ago. But some days I'll be fine. And other days I can't move without hurting. Okay. So if I wake up today and my back is sore, okay, which for me is always my lower back, that's where my injury is. Okay, and sometimes the pain radiates and stretches out to each hip on each side. And I can be stiff and sore for the day. But if I'm reading someone on that day, that maybe had a back injury of their own or a kidney issue or bowel cancer or something, anything that would cause pain or discomfort in any of those areas, like how can I be sure that I'm getting that from spirit, or I'm just feeling the pain and discomfort from my own back issue? Okay. Now, I am using physical examples here, okay, but this, of course, can happen for emotions as well. Okay, so for example, if I'm having a day where my anxiety levels are high, or I'm feeling sad about something going on in my own life, then how can spirit get across to me that this is how they were feeling before they passed? Okay, I just need to create that extra space. Maybe they're trying to tell me that they've seen you. Maybe you've been here feeling like this. You're grieving, you're hurting. And maybe I don't get it because I'm feeling sad anyway. So do you see what I'm trying to say here? I need to separate my physical, pain, if I have pain, or, I'm getting older. Maybe I've got, little stiffness coming on from, I'm in my 50s now, after all. But this is what I mean by separating what actually belongs to you and what you're actually getting from spirit. So in instances like this, what you have to do is take time out each and every morning to just sit with your energy and acknowledge it. Okay, acknowledge, I have a toothache. I stubbed my toe last night, it's throbbing. I have a pimple on my backside. Whatever's going on in your energy. I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling extra happy, whatever. Okay. Now, this doesn't have to be a major meditation session. You can do this while you're brushing your teeth or getting dressed or fixing your hair or your makeup, ladies, whatever. But you need to take a couple of minutes each morning to acknowledge what's going on in your energy so that you can separate it from the information that spirit are giving to you. Okay, so, if you're naturally happy or sad in the morning, are you feeling positive or negative? Because, if this is your emotion for the day and major variation, like you'll be feeling that in the morning, that's that's your kind of, you wake up and you're happy and you think, I'm going to have a good day. So you know then that any major variation or spike in that emotion, you know, maybe you go from like being really happy, blah, 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 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, and then boom, at 2:30, you know, you think about someone in spirit, your energy drops, and then by 3 o'clock it's back up again. So any major variation in that emotion could be spirit giving it to you. So somebody letting you know that they're there with you, that they're feeling it, that they're sad because they miss you too. You know, these are things you need to be aware of. Like if you're not aware of what your emotion is today, then you're not going to know. Okay? So as I said before, like maybe you stubbed your toe yesterday and it's throbbing. Maybe you were out drinking last night and you feel hungover, extra tired. You know, are you worried about something, or are you excited about something? Like it doesn't always have to be negative things that are going on for you. You have to acknowledge the positive things too. Okay, so maybe you had a tummy bug for a few days, but today you're feeling like you're over it and you're feeling back to yourself. But then you might be talking to spirit and suddenly you feel like you're going to vomit. Then that could be maybe a loved one or a spirit coming through who was sick. Maybe they were taking a lot of medication, or maybe they were undergoing a cancer treatment that made them ill. You know, that could be them coming into your energy to make themselves known to you. Okay? Maybe you wake up today and you're feeling a little sad, you're feeling hopeless, you're feeling pessimistic. Okay? And you're beginning to wonder, you know, what would my grandfather think about this? Okay, maybe your grandfather was a man who was, you know, always optimistic, always happy, always looked at the bright side of life. And I know my grandfather, he was a widower, and I used to go out and stay with him a lot when I was in my teens, my early teens. And like that man would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and he would go around the house singing. You know, you couldn't possibly be in a bad mood with this man. Okay, he was an army man, he was used to getting up early and whatnot. And you know, so if I'm you know, up in the morning and I'm crabby and I'm in bad form and I'm thinking, oh, what's the point of life? What's the point in work? Blah, 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 blah. And then I'm thinking, you know, what would he have said to me then? You know, I often say, Granddad, you know, what can I do about my humour? Like, why can't I be as happy as you? And then sometimes, not every time, but sometimes like a feeling will come over me after a few minutes. And I begin to remember things about him that I haven't thought of in years. And I begin to laugh out loud. Okay, out of nowhere, just laughing. I'm gone from being, you know, down and out in the doldrums to laughing my heart out, you know. And my belief is that's him coming to remind me of the lighter side of life and the happy memories that we shared together. But if I hadn't acknowledged that I was a crabby old thing that morning, I might not have noticed that. Okay, I hope this is making sense, because what I'm trying to get across to you here is that the communication that you receive from spirit, it lies in that space between what you were feeling before you reached out to them and what you're feeling after you welcomed them into your energy. Okay, so it's that little crossover space like on the diagram. And my point in this is that once you have acknowledged what does actually belong to you, then you can work with spirit on working around it. Okay, especially if you're someone who wants to read spirit for other people at some point. Okay, and I will do another episode on building up your language with spirit. Okay, because it all ties in here. Okay, but for now I'll give you an example. And I know I talk a lot about what I'm feeling from spirit, but for me it's clairsentience. Okay, the clear feeling. That's a huge part of my mediumship, and it's how I get information from spirit. You know, so if today I'm struggling with pain or discomfort in my back, as I said above, okay, and you know, I know my calendar, maybe I've readings booked all day, then I need to acknowledge both to myself and to my spirit guides that this is how I'm feeling today. So if there is somebody coming for a reading later who's looking to connect with someone who suffered with their own back injury or who had a trauma which physically hurt them immediately before they crossed over, then they will need to give me different signs to get that across to me. Okay? So in this particular instance, I might say to my guides in the morning, okay, my old age is playing up again and I have a lot of discomfort in the lower area of my back, radiating out to my left hip, okay? So if there's anything coming up in readings today which affects this area, then you're going to have to give it to me in a different way, okay? Now, I've been reading for a long time, so I have different signs agreed with my spirit guides, okay? And I can use them in this instances, okay? So, for example, this is something, because I suffer my back, this is something that happens a lot. And there's a funny picture that we came across once. My son, my youngest son, is a huge Queen fan, loves Freddie Mercury, loves everything about him. And we came across this picture of him once. And whatever way he was standing on stage with his hand on his hip, we joked at the time saying that it looks like poor old Freddie has a bad back, like he looks like an old man. We all know Freddie was very young when he died. But in this particular picture that we saw, he looked like he had a bad back, and that he was holding his hip or his back, whatever way he had his hand, and he was kind of, he used to stand with his hip cocked out. Okay, and we had this ongoing joke that he looked like he had hurt his back. So on days where I have my back playing up, and if it's something that needs to come up in the reading, Spirit will actually show me this photo of Freddie Mercury. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's part of the language that I have built up with my spirit guides. Now, I will do a complete other episode on that because it's too much to get into in one episode. Okay. But luckily for me, I'm clairvoyant as well as, sentient. So there's a few different ways that I can get this information. Okay. But it doesn't mean that you can't also get this information. Okay. And as I say, that comes under the heading of developing your language with spirit. And I promise that I will do an episode on that soon. Okay, so after all of my ramblings here in this episode, what have you learned? Well, hopefully the answer to that question is that, you need to know what's going on with you, with your body and with your emotions before you begin to invite in the energy of spirit. Okay, because if you don't know and acknowledge what's going on with you, then how can you begin to know what spirit are giving to you? Like, how will you notice the subtle changes? Okay, this is the overlap in the Venn diagram that I talked about. This is where the information that you get from spirit exists. And this is what you need to be concentrating on. Okay, spirit will not slide on into your energy and whisper to you or poke and prod you. Okay, everything is very subtle. Your job is to acknowledge your own energy so that you can identify those little clues. Okay, the interpretation of the clues comes later. Okay, but for now you need to identify the clues. Okay, so I know that I've droned on a little bit here, but I hope that you found it helpful and insightful. Okay, I will develop this in future episodes. Okay, so do hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening, because it's something that I plan to do more in the new year. Okay, but if you have found it interesting, as I say, give the podcast please a subscribe or even just a thumbs up or whatever is available on whatever platform you're listening to. Okay, this allows other people to find my podcast. Okay, I only have a little podcast. Okay, so anything that you can do to make it more visible, I'd really appreciate. Okay. So guys, remember, every morning, if you're somebody who's looking for a message, a sign, an indication from spirit that they're around you, take those couple of minutes every morning to just acknowledge exactly how you're feeling. Okay, tell your spirit guides, tell your loved ones out loud. Okay, I have a pain in my head, I stubbed my toe, I have a paper cut in my finger, whatever you've got going on. I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling a little bit pissed off, if I'm honest with you today. Tell them, because then, not only does it give them, conversation starters, if you like, but it also tells them, well, you know what, I can't remind her that I had a club foot or that I had a foot injury or that I, whatever, because, she's already feeling that, or he's already feeling that in whatever he has going on for him today, or she. Okay, so you're giving them the out, you're telling them what you're not going to understand today, and that immediately lets them know what you actually will understand. Okay, I hope that makes sense to you guys. You know where I am. All my contact details are in the show notes attached. Okay, let me know what you're thinking and what questions you have after this, because I can develop on this. I can talk about it forever. Okay, but for now, I'm going to say goodbye. I will chat to you in the next episode of Life After Life. So until then, take care and stay safe.
Discussing everything